Hello everyone. Today on Money 9, we'll talk about real estate investment trusts. So if you don't have lakhs and crores of money to invest in traditional real estate, then you may consider some exposure in REITs. On Money Masterclass, we have with us Kirtan Shah. He is co-founder and CEO at SRE Wealth. He'll tell us all about REITs. Welcome, Mr. Shah. So tell us about the concept of REITs and how far evolved this space is in India now.
Hi, Apradijita. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Look, REITs is a very new concept in India. To give you a little background of how this really works. So imagine if you are a real estate developer and you've identified a land where you would want to go ahead and do some construction, making a commercial real estate park. Now, typically, what you would ideally need to go ahead and be able to do that is you will need to fund the project to first be able to buy the land and then the construction cost. Now, how do real estate developers generally would do that? So, as a real estate developer, I can put my own money. I can actually approach a bank, an NBFC, or a debt mutual fund to raise debt. Or what I can do is I can also get somebody else on partner with me to share equity. So I might give away some equity from the business to raise money so that I can buy the land and build the property. Or I can do all three, right? So I can put some of my money, some from the bank, and some equity that I sell and get a partner on board. Now, let's say that's how I raised money. After having raised money, I built the commercial real estate park. Now, the way most of these real estate players typically play around the commercial real estate is after they've built it, they don't outrightly sell this off. They would then scout in to get more tenants on board, right? So they would approach IT companies, they would approach financial companies and make them tenants. Now, what typically happens is after you become a tenant in that particular real estate, you will start earning rent income instead of the other way around where you go out and sell the property. Now, this is how a development project typically works on the commercial real estate side. But typically what happens is there comes a space and it's very common in the real estate businesses where they would need more and more money to do more and more work. So let's say as the same developer, you would want to buy more land or you would want to buy or build or construct more commercial real estate. Now, where do you get additional money from? So that is where a lot of these commercial real estate players then look out to do an IPO, right? So what they typically do is not come out with an IPO of the entire company, but only this particular project can be converted in the form of a trust, right? And this trust can come out with an IPO which is called a REITs. So typically what happens is this particular project will independently come out as a REIT and not the entire company. And like you invest in a normal IPO, investors can actually bid in to buy shares of this particular project. Now, how does this really solve the problem for both entities, the real estate developer and as well as the investors? So, real estate developer, it's easy. Real estate developer is able to raise more money to buy more land or build more properties, right? For the investor, what really turns out to be interesting is now the investor will be able to buy into this particular commercial real estate project, right? By investing a small ticket size as small as 50,000 rupees and will be able to play the real estate game. So otherwise with the 50,000 rupees, you will not be able to buy a commercial real estate as such or participate in the growth story. So that's how the real estate investment trust is formed, where the IPO will lend out shares to investors who buy in the IPO, and that's how the real estate developer will be able to raise money, and that's how this entire equation and the ecosystem works.
So if a retail investor has to invest, so they have either when REIT IPOs are coming, then they can get into it. Now REIT gets listed on stock exchanges, then you have REIT stocks, and then we also have REIT mutual funds. So which way is most suitable for a common retail investor?
So Aparajita, in this case, what we really have to understand is, in India, real estate investment trust as a concept is pretty nascent. When I say pretty nascent, it is that nascent that there are only 3 REITs listed on the exchange right now, right? And there is only one real estate mutual fund available, right? So it's very difficult for somebody who does not understand how this space really works to be able to take positions and take investment calls. So what I would typically suggest investors who don't really understand REITs really well, because this is too nascent, to put half of your money into these real estate investment trusts listed on the stock exchange, and put half of your money into the real estate investment trust mutual fund which is available. By that you are kind of diversifying it into a mutual fund also and a direct stock also. Of course, the best case situation is invest it in the mutual fund where you have a professional who's managing and selecting REITs for you. But because it is so nascent and it is typically slightly more expensive to go through the real estate investment trust mutual fund route, I think you can split some money directly in the stock and some money through the mutual fund.
And this REIT mutual fund invests where? Only in these 3 Indian REITs, or do they have international exposure as well?
So the one REIT that is available right now, Kotak REIT, it's actually a fund of fund, right? So what it does is it allows you an opportunity that you invest in this Kotak fund of fund, and then it further invests in another fund which is internationally listed. So that particular fund is investing and diversified across continents and countries. So what happens is when you invest in the Kotak fund of fund REIT, typically you are investing in commercial real estate properties or projects across the globe, right? Because like I said, it is spread across continents and countries. So the mutual fund will actually give you an exposure which is global in nature and not just India. So there is no Indian REIT so far as I understand that the global fund of fund that we are trying to invest in actually invests in.
So people may consider having some exposure in REIT stocks and REIT mutual fund. That's how they have Indian and international exposure all across.
Absolutely right. Which is why I said that you can have some part of your money invested in the REITs listed on the exchange and some on the mutual fund side, so that you have a good global diversification, which includes India as well.
And what's the minimum investment amount in stocks and in mutual funds?
So typically what happens is when the IPO comes out, like we have the 3 that have come up with an IPO called the Embassy Business Park, Mindspace and Brookfield, right? When an IPO comes out, the minimum ticket size is 50,000 rupees to invest in this particular REIT in the IPO form. Now currently what is happening is after this REIT is listed on the stock exchange, right, you have to buy it in a minimum lot size, right? So you can't go ahead and buy one Mindspace REIT or one Brookfield REIT, right? You have to buy a lot size. So you will have to, let's say, buy 270 units of Embassy Business Park. Typically the way it works is it's a theoretical 2 lakh worth of contract size. So while you are trying to buy an Embassy REIT or a Mindspace REIT or a Brookfield REIT, minimum you will have to buy roughly 2 lakhs. But a month and a half back, SEBI's come out with a new suggestive white paper where SEBI suggested to exchanges to bring down this lot size to 1 unit. So now, like you can buy 1 share of Reliance and 1 share of TCS, you will soon be able to buy 1 unit of Embassy Business Park, Mindspace or Brookfield. So to sum up, what I'm trying to say is while you are applying for the IPO, it's 50,000 rupees minimum, but soon you will be able to buy 1 unit of either of these REITs listed on the exchange.
So any timeline to it that by this month or year this be done?
No, so I'm not sure if I know of any timelines that SEBI spoke about. But as far as I remember, this circular came out, if I'm not wrong, a month back. And in my opinion, probably in a quarter's time, you will, on a higher side, you will start seeing all of these REITs trading in 1 unit instead of trading per lot.
So if I don't want exposure in physical gold, then I can go to sovereign gold bonds and gold ETFs. So similarly, can REITs be an alternative for real estate, traditional real estate for investors?
Absolutely. I think it's a big yes for the way I look at it. So Aparajita, what typically happens in the real estate space is the ticket size is extremely large while you're trying to buy a physical real estate, right? Plus there are huge liquidity issues. All of us know that if I want to sell my real estate, I will never be able to sell it tomorrow if I decide if I want to sell it off today, right? Plus you have to maintain the real estate, finding tenants, right? All of this is a big problem in owning physical real estate. I think REIT definitely solves that problem. Why? Ticket size is very low, right? You can invest currently as low as 50,000 rupees during the IPO of 2 lakh rupees while you buy. And this is going to drastically come down. Like I explained to you, you can buy 1 unit also going forward, right? Plus, because these REITs are listed on the exchange, when the price of the stock or the REIT goes up, there is capital appreciation. There is liquidity. You can sell and redeem it immediately, right? Also, it is extremely tax efficient in my opinion, is because typically the way these REITs work is that while you try and buy these REITs, let's say you ended up buying Embassy REIT, okay? Now, what typically happens is whatever rent does the Embassy Business Park collect, by law, 90% of that rent has to be given out as dividend to people who own the REITs. So let's say if I buy that one lot of REIT, right? Whatever rent Embassy Business Park gathers from that particular business park every month, semi-annually, every 6 months, I will have to give out 90% of the rents that I've collected. And in most cases, these rents that come out to me as dividends and they are tax-free. Also, let's say if I bought this REIT and I saw capital appreciation, the taxation structure is slightly different. So because it is listed on the exchange, short term is 15% and long term is 10%, like it is in equity. But the definition of short term, long term is slightly different. So like in the stock market, you have short term, long term as 1 year, but over here in REITs, it is 3 years. So what I mean is that if you buy the Embassy REIT, but sell it before 3 years, then you pay short term capital gains, which is 15%. And you sell after 3 years, you pay long term capital gains, which is 10%. So if you are able to hold the REIT for 3 years, the taxation is much more favorable here versus the physical real estate as well. So you also receive regular dividends, which are tax-free, right? In most cases, and also the capital gains are taxed much better or much cheaper than the physical real estate is taxed. So yeah, that's why I really think that real estate investment trust can definitely be a substitute to physical real estate.
So taxation, coming back to it, even if I'm investing in REIT stocks, then again, short term and long term be 3 year, more than 3 year be long term, not
Absolutely.
like stock.
Absolutely. So taxation is exactly like how it happens in equity. It's just that the definition is not 1 year but 3 years.
Okay, so tax rate will remain 10% and up to 1 lakh capital gains tax free. That's how it will work.
Correct.
And so people invest in traditional real estate for rental income. So can they rely on REITs for regular income of sort?
So look, again, I don't have a lot of data that I can really go back to and kind of tell you that it's been happening for the last 20, 30 years. But look, the way it is structured,
globally, how it happens.
Correct. So the way it is structured, like I said, that every month the rent that I collect, right? That rent is given out to me, 90% of that rent is given out to me as dividend, right? So till the time the tenants who are going to be a part of the commercial real estate, right? The rents are always going to come to the real estate developer and 90% of it is always going to be paid out, right? And in fact, what happens is, like you have in physical real estate, over here rents also go up every 3 year, every 5 year, depending on the contract that you made. Now, if you look at internationally, this has worked out to be extremely stable, right? So the rent income that you've been receiving as a real estate developer from the tenant has been very regular and has been linearly going up, like the physical real estate rents go up every 3 or 5. So I don't see a reason why this can not be a replacement to the physical rent thought process that a lot of us have while we do physical investing. But like I said, look, India is a very nascent market, and what can happen 10 years later, I don't know. Very honestly, today talking to you, But going by the historical data points that I can see from the international markets where REIT is very mature, I think this is very stable, like you have the physical real estate working.
And if I'm investing in REIT mutual fund, then how will regular income work out?
Okay, so Aparajita, like you would get regular income in a stock, right? There is no mandatory rule or regulation which says that the mutual fund will have to pay out 90% of the rent that is received. So let's say if as a mutual fund I've invested in 5 REITs, okay? The REITs compulsorily will have to pay out those 90% rents to the mutual fund. But the mutual fund has no compulsion to pay that out. Also, because there is only one REIT available right now, which is Kotak, and this is international in nature, none of these things apply right now because we are talking about REITs in the Indian context. So mutual fund actually will not really be the right medium or the platform if you're really looking at regular income through real estate investing.
Correct. And what's the cost structure in REITs? So we have talked about regular income and receiving taxes we talked about, but what fee do I pay on REITs investment?
So look, we'll split this into two. One is stock. So you invest in real estate investment stocks. Now over there, depends on who your broker is and how much is your brokerage cost, right? So like you are buying a normal share is how exactly you end up paying while you are buying REIT on the exchange. But while you buy the only one real estate investment trust mutual fund that we are talking about, the AMC website says that the total expense ratio is 40 bips or 0.4%, but they've not categorically mentioned of how much is the fund of fund cost. What I mean by fund of fund cost is while you are investing in Kotak REIT and Kotak is investing in some other fund, that some other fund also has a cost. Now that's not very categorically displayed on their website. So I might not have that figure, but what the website says is 40 bips. But like I just explained, there is going to be an additional cost of the fund in which they are investing. So it's going to be higher than 0.4 for sure.
And what more is coming in this space? So currently, I believe we only have REITs for commercial segment and residential segment is yet to open. So do we see that happening? And are more REITs listings to happen in near future?
So actually there are 5-6 very large REITs which are in my opinion and understanding of the markets are looking at appropriate time to come out with an IPO themselves, right? But all of these are commercial real estate trusts. Aparajita, my view is that while we are talking about REITs, we will always see or majorly see only commercial REITs coming out and not residential. Is because if you look at the larger framework or the way this really works is the rent yield on a commercial project is anywhere in the range of 7 to 8%. But while you talk about a residential project, the rent yields specifically in the area that I sit out of in Bombay is 2.5%. What I mean is that if there is a property which is for 1 crore of rupees, if you want to buy it for rent, you will get it for 24,000 rupees a month on a higher side. So with the 2% rent yield, it does not really make business sense for people to really invest in it. So my view is that residential REITs are not going to be very common, while you will see commercial projects definitely come out with a lot of things.
Okay, and lastly, if investors have to invest in REIT stocks, currently 3 are listed. So on what basis do they make a comparison? How do they start their research?
Sure. So ideally, Parajita, in my opinion, what you should look at specifically 3-4 data points, which in my opinion are very important. The first you have to look at is something called as the weighted average lease expiry, right? The higher it is better because you want the lease contracts or agreements to be as high as possible so that you have a visibility of rent income or cash flow coming. The second what you look at is the vacancy rate. Now the lower is better. It is very simple to understand by the name of how many units do you have in your commercial business park and how many are vacant. The less they are vacant, the better it is, right? What you also look at is the concentration of the top 10 tenants, right? Is because you don't want to be in a situation where most of the rent comes from the top 10. What typically happens then is that if one of them do not kind of go into a reinvestment or going forward or taking higher lease or continuing with the lease, there can be a big impact on the rental income. So concentration of the top 10 tenants should be lower, as low as possible. And the last thing that you should look at is sector concentration. Again, lower the better, is because let's say if tomorrow something goes wrong with a particular sector, you might have a lot of these businesses facing a lot of problems, and you don't want to get stuck in a situation where 40-50% of your property is rented to a particular sector, because if that sector goes through a downturn, you are definitely going to be at the receiving end. So if you look at these 4 things, I think you will be able to pick the right REIT, in my opinion.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shah, for sharing your views with us. I hope you liked the show and now you have some understanding of how to invest in REITs, when to invest in REIT stocks, when to invest in REIT mutual fund, what is the cost structure, and what are the taxation rules. To watch more such videos, keep watching Money9. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit the bell icon. Also visit our website money9.com in Hindi and English. Thank you for joining in.